Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show on Channel 1 television. Here on The Point of View, we pick the right topics, get the right guests, and ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you. Our show tonight, however, is different because tonight we're taking a breather from the Galamsey advocacy to bring you another important subject, the Electoral Commission's readiness for election 2024 and the very high-profile IPAC meeting held on Tuesday to address issues raised by the opposition party NDC and to an extent some of the other opposition parties. You'll be hearing from some of the key stakeholders within this system and also end with an interview to wrap everything together around how did the meeting yesterday resolve the issues raised by the NDC. Stay with us. So tonight on The Point of View, we're going to walk you through, in the next hour, the key issues that were raised and addressed and discussed at the special IPAC meeting. This was a special IPAC meeting called, I wouldn't say at the behest, but essentially on the basis of issues raised by the leading opposition party, the NDC, in relation to two main issues: the voter register and its accuracy, and then the electoral system, the system that holds the register, and whether it was secure enough to avoid breaches. Now, because the NDC had already written to the EC and met CSOs and the diplomatic community about these matters, the issues were in the public domain. So at this meeting, the director of IT for the Electoral Commission, Dr. Yao Oforie-J, gave a presentation to try and address the issues that had been raised by the NDC. And Dr. J said that, yes, there may have been instances of misplaced transfers, but they were not enough or significant enough to gravely affect the outcome of the polls. He also sought to assure all those concerned that the system was secure. Here are excerpts of Dr. Oforie-J's submission to begin the meeting.
Issues of people who are appearing both on the provisional voter register and on the multiples list, when in actual fact they should be on the multiples list. And so that has been rectified as well. Last but not the least is errors in the names of individuals. During registration, unfortunately, sometimes at the point of entry data, the data entry clerks will put in unusual characters. Like, for instance, for this particular voter, I believe this is her birth date, but actually had been inputted in her other name section. We see other instances of funny characters being put in there, right? We were able to query our database and come up with all those who had that affliction. And indeed, we came up with 7,538. There was an active move to try and get these voters to come and have these errors corrected. Unfortunately, not all of them showed up. One of the issues that can potentially be a source of anxiety for a voter is when you appear on voting day and you can't find your name. And you can't find your name, not that you are not in the register, but your name, instead of an O, is a 0. So for instance, if you look at this particular polling station, which is in Karachi East, all the names that start are actually supposed to be a 0, but have been replaced, supposed to be an O, but have been replaced with a 0. And remember that your voter list is arranged in alphabetical order. So when a 0 appears first, it will be on top of the list. But if the election official is not aware of this and goes to look for your name at O, they may not find you there and say that you are absent from the voter register. And that might cause some anxiety. So this issue we can fix. But I think that it is something that has come up for discussion. And as stakeholders, we need to find out if this is something that the commission can on its own go ahead and fix, because it's an easy fix. You can easily, for instance, look at all the zeros that are in people's names and then convert them to an O. And that largely should fix majority of the problems. For some of them, it might be a little bit more difficult. But at least if you are able to fix the zeros, the rest that are left, we will take our time and fix it. Having said that, it doesn't stop anybody from voting. Because remember that your ability to vote is by biometric verification. And the biometric verification does not know your name, does not know your age, does not know your date of birth. But it is essential that some of these errors are corrected so that it gives more credibility to the register that we have. So in conclusion, we have demonstrated to you that the Electoral Commission of Ghana has in place a tried and tested process to produce a credible register that ensures a free, fair, and transparent election. As has already been said, these are processes that have been used since 2020. In fact, in 2020, we produced a register under more dire conditions. We produced a register in 36 days in a COVID pandemic. And so we have learned a lot from that process. And it's the same processes that we are employing for the generation of this register. So like Madam Chair said, trust us to be able to deliver on a register that you will all be proud of. A register that does not disenfranchise anybody. The exhibition of the provisional voter register is indeed an audit on its own. And it involves all stakeholders, from political parties to voters to civil society organizations, and indeed the staff of the electoral commissions. The anomalies that have been identified have today been largely fixed, and we are waiting for the processes that are ongoing to be able to produce a final voter register. Once that work is complete, the hard work that over the last few weeks the Electoral Commission has been engaged in, we will be able to share at no additional cost to our stakeholders the ability for them to check the voter register electronically and allow for any changes to be made. I'd like to end by saying that the register that we have all strived hard to correct, currently as it stands now, is as cleanest as it will ever get. And it is robust, and it is ready for the 2020 election.
So that was Dr. John Oforeje setting the scene for very vigorous discussions. Now, we'll take you to Dr. Edward Omanibuama. He's the Director of IT and Elections for the National Democratic Congress. He sought to raise again the fundamental concerns they were having in relation to the register. He gave a very interesting analogy around if your roof is caving in, you don't use a mop-up, you fix the roof. He was also concerned about what he called lack of decisive action around the ability of people to manipulate the system using the Pusiga issue, because what had happened was that somebody had managed to breach the protocols and illegally transfer about 32 voters from Pusiga to a different location. And this was raising a big concern about security of the system. So I'm going to take you into the full submission of Dr. Omanibuama at this particular special IPAC meeting.
Thank you.
My name is Kofi Omanibuama, Director for Elections and IT, NDC. I think that the ground rule must be modified. Obviously, no other political party was seen during the PowerPoint presentation being responded to. So it is obvious we have done a good job, and that is why today you are all here to help deepen our democracy. This said, very obviously, 1 to 4 minutes for all other political parties will certainly not be enough for the NDC. Thank you. When your roof is leaking, you can decide to mop, keep mopping, and keep mopping. Or you can decide to fix the leakage and mop. What we see here is mopping and mopping and mopping. fixing the leakage is missing. And this is at the heart of our altruistic demand for a forensic audit. This forensic audit is not just about the register. When you have fixed the register, and I will demonstrate to you how, as a result of our revelations, some aftermath fixing is providing a semblance of we are fixing it. When you fix it, and we all look at the hard copies, and we are all given the PVR, the soft copies, in November, if the very criminals that got us here are still there, engaged in illegal transfers, we will come back to square one. And that time, it will be too close to the December 7 elections. This is why we are saying we need to adopt a dichotomous approach. Look at the register, fix the issues in there, and also audit the very IT systems that allowed these anomalies to occur. We have heard, and Madam Chair spoke about the fact that we certainly do not require external assistance. I've also heard some EC officials question the legality. We have CI 91 as amended by CI 126. We also have CI 127. Okay? A suggestion is being made that on December 7, we are likely to see missing voters list at the polling stations. Is that not the case? Is that not what we've been told here? About 1,551 voters are likely to be captured on a list that will be called missing voters list. Is that not it? I'm here to identify which of these laws has missing voters list. But you see, it's a reasonable remedy for the problem that we are dealing with. And so when you have to go beyond these in a way that it will not hurt but help our democratic process, you need to give it greater consideration. I come also to the point of adjudication, and we saw some very huge figures in the presentation. Are these figures emanating from the very adjudication meetings that NDC participated in? Because to the best of our knowledge, the meetings that we participated in, we did not treat these figures in tens of thousands, about 20-something thousand. So once again, it will be important for a forensic audit to identify where these over 20,000 figures are coming from. Because the report that we have does not support that. We come to the issue of proxy. We are being told proxy, 2,167. Great. But we also know people successfully filed for proxy without going through biometrics. As we speak, which of these 2,167 people went through biometrics and which of them did not go through biometrics? It is going to take maybe a follow-up question. EC may tell us maybe 1,000, maybe 900. How do we verify that? This is a matter that we have raised at IPAC before. For those of you who were at IPAC, this proxy and some people not going through biometrics, we've raised it at IPAC before. Again, we come to the issue of Pusiga. Just like COVID-19, when some people were trying to call it a certain country's disease, Perhaps we should not be calling those criminal transfers Pusiga transfers. And it will take a forensic audit of the EC's IT system to know where those transfers took place. And because I do not have the answers on this Pusiga matter, I want to ask some few questions. One, the login credentials given to your district directors, the passwords, can they modify it so that it will become unique to them? Example, if you are given a bank card, your bank will give you an initial password, and because they don't want anybody to have access to your password, will give you the opportunity for you to change that password of your bank card. In the case that we are dealing with, the district officers, the passwords that they are giving or the login credentials that they are giving, are they said that other people can have access to them? And so when you have said criminal transfers taking place, the only way out is to check the digital footprints of such transfers instead of just looking at the geographic location where the transfers ended and say that that is where it took place, so that officer or officers are the people who are culpable. If others can have access to those login credentials, then it is important that a forensic audit establishes exactly the footprints of where these transfers took place. Still on Pusiga, are we being told here that 4 years ago, 2020, there wasn't technology across the globe to be checking biometrics with the face? Is that what we are being told by the Electoral Commission? Is that what we spend the taxpayers' money on in the year 2020? Contrary to all the advocacy by Imani, Ghana, and the rest. Is that what we are being told? That this liveliness test could only be activated after the revelation of Pusiga, and there is evidence that it was only activated during the exhibition process. The Director for Electoral Services eloquently captured this on a TV3 program one Saturday morning. When assurance is given, the assurance is treated with value judgment, and that value judgment is hinged on reliability and credibility. We have had palpable experience on different occasions with the Electoral Commission that obviously demonstrate that we must rebuild that trust in order for us to accept assurances. And the evidence is obvious.
So that was Dr. Edward Omane-Boama, Director of Elections and IT for the NDC, making his case, a strong case, in front of all. When we come back, you will hear from the MPP's equivalent in this sense. So probably the most experienced MPP person when it comes to election work, former Western Regional Chairman and one of NPP's big wigs, Mr. Peter McMahon. He made a main submission where he sought to remind the NDC of the history of this, because apparently in 2015, a similar case was made by the MPP, and at the time, the NDC in government did not think it was worth anything. You'll also hear from Justin Frimpong Kodua, who's the General Secretary of the MPP, and then we'll hear from other parties before we hear from the EC. This is a special edition of The Point of View, trying to summarize for you the very special IPAC meeting that took place on Tuesday to address concerns about the register. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Point of View tonight is a special edition because we're bringing you highlights of the special IPAC meeting. IPAC is the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, which is an informal but very significant forum where the Electoral Commission meets with the various political parties at one sitting to discuss the electoral process. Now, this meeting was called because the NDC had raised a number of issues. They'd written to the EC They met the diplomatic community and civil society to explain their challenge with the electoral register. And this meeting was an attempt to address this. Now, we've already heard from the director of IT of the EC, Dr. Yao Oforie J. We've also heard Edodomade Boama, who's the director of elections and IT for the NDC, making his case. We're going to hear from the MPP now. Peter McMahon is a former chairman of the party, one of the key figures of the MPP when it comes to elections and electoral issues. He was there with a few other officials. I'm going to just bring you his submission and follow that up with that of Justin Frimpong Kodia, the General Secretary as well, because I think it was 110 they got that is split into two. So this is the NPP's official position. And mind you, the NPP prior to this had said that they didn't think the EC should give NDC or accede to the NDC's request in any shape or form. But luckily, IPAC gave all parties the forum to deliberate on this. So here's McMahon, followed by JFK.
9 years ago, 2015, we were assembled here for the same purpose of getting a credible register for the 2016 elections. This same Alisa Hotel, 9 years ago. And I recall vividly, as a member of the NPP team, that when we had made our presentations about the state of the register, that it was bloated, that it was not fit for purpose, and we were calling for a new register, our colleagues on the other side said, no, the register is fit for purpose. Allow the Electoral Commission to do its work. Why are you interfering in the affairs of the Electoral Commission? Today, they are playing the catch-up. They are playing the catch-up with the MPP. But I'll go back even before 2016. In 2008, just before the 2008 elections, NDC made allegations that there were some 13 constituencies in Ashanti region whose register have been bloated. The then commission, headed by Dr. Afarijan, also met IPAC in this same fashion and constituted a committee, one from MPP, one from NDC, and two from the other political parties. MPP nominated Kwabena Ajay Ejapon, I remember very well, and NDC nominated Dr. Percy. They went into the matter and they came back to report that it was an error from a computer input. So the allegations were dismissed. I think that we are repeating ourselves the same way. So I am very happy and I commend the Electoral Commission for instituting today's meeting to the full glare of the entire Ghanaian public and our friends from other countries. The call for audit, be it audit or forensic audit, is, and I'm repeating what the NDC said in 2015, in this same venue. Now, it is embedded in the CI 91, a copy which is here, as amended by 126. That was what the presentation NDC made 9 years ago. So what has changed? What really has changed with the exhibition and various corrections that can be made on the exhibition, be it omission of names, it can be included, be it wrong spelling. What really is important is what the CI says. For example, the CI says you must be resident in the area for a minimum of 12 months before you can do a transfer. You must be resident in the area or the community or the electoral area for a minimum of 12 months before you can effect a transfer. Only last week, in the Kumasi High Court, Magistrate Court, an NDC-sponsored transfers were sent packing to go to where they came from. In the Kumasi metropolis, a judge ruled that they were not resident in that area. So they are surreptitiously saying things, one thing, and doing the other, just to court the public support for an election they are going to lose. Don't be emotional. Don't be emotional. You must put your mind back to 2015 in this same area, how you treated the entire presentation we made. What did IEA say? IEA was made up of political parties with representatives in parliament. So it was the views of the political parties that were espoused by the IEA. So here we are, 2008, 13 constituencies in Ashanti region have their votes bloated because Ashanti is the heartbeat of MPP. These were challenged, they went through, and nothing untoward was discovered. In 2015, we made serious effort to get a new register or a cleanup, or what they now call a forensic audit. We went through the motions, all right, but we were denied because the panel, and for that matter, the commission at that time, entreated us to use the mechanism of the exhibition to do any corrections we want to make. What has changed? I want to ask my brothers in the NTC.
As stakeholders in this year's elections, carrying from what APC presidential candidate said, it bestows on us, irrespective of our political device, to make sure that the peaceful country that we are enjoying remains same after December 7th. Madam Chair, not long ago, certain people were asked to hit the street to demonstrate against the Electoral Commission based on what they perceive to be discrepancies and an attempt to rig the election for the New Patriotic Party. Upon several calls from key stakeholders that if NDC indeed have legitimate concerns to raise, we will ask them to do a press conference, invite all of us, walk us through all the allegations that they are talking about. Today, as we speak, the NDC is yet to give those so-called allegations and discrepancies to the Electoral Commission. Let it be on record. And for me, I challenge them that all those allegations that they are making and how the Electoral Commission will be able to address the issue, they don't have any further allegations. If indeed they do have it, they should bring it forth for us to interrogate it and see whether the Electoral Commission has addressed it or not. It's not a question about having a leaking roof and mopping your floor. It's about the data, what you presented to the Electoral Commission. The whole people of Ghana want to see it. And that is the comment APC made. That even the request for forensic audit is needless at this point, because we are yet to see those allegations that you are talking about. And the Electoral Commission has said that they are going to furnish us with the cleanup that they have done. So, Madam Chair, we also want to know from you when we can have the revised exercise that you have done, so that we can also have another look. It is after all that if there is a need for us to convey again, then the issues that you are talking about, we can even think about or even consider. But at this point, we are asking you, NDC, challenge the presentation by the Electoral Commission and let all of us know. We are asking you, based on 1, 2, 3 names, we are talking about 200,000, we are talking about 300,000, we are talking about 15,000. We want to see those names. If indeed you have it, present for us on this forum for us to see.
Welcome back. We are still on the point of view tonight, bringing you highlights of that special IPAC meeting. Now, the nature of IPAC means that all political parties on the ballot have a voice. Indeed, some don't, which are not even on the ballot, may be there. They are observers as well. There were a lot of submissions. Ekua Donko of the Ghana Freedom Party made a submission. There were submissions made by the CPP, by the IPP, and indeed, a number of political parties were given their turn. Now, we've selected to bring you Hassan Ayerga's submission because we think it captures or summarizes the views of the other parties in a very eloquent way. He basically says, look, the NDC and MPP, depending on who is in power, choose to accuse the EC of one ill or the other, but they are both equally guilty of trying to do things which are not legal. He made some serious allegations around the parties flouting regulations during the registration exercise, where he claimed that they unlawfully bussed citizens to register at different centers for electoral gain. So Hassan Ayerga's submission for me was an important independent submission, because there were quite a number of submissions which seemed to tilt to one way or the other depending on where you thought the leanings were. We are not delegitimizing those submissions, but we just feel like Hassan Ayerga's submission captured a very important issue which a lot of neutrals have also been raising. So here's the flag bearer of the APC making his submission.
But for me, it's going to be very difficult for Ghana to have a perfect system without a national data system. We've been running around talking about data collection, data system, national health insurance, DVLA, Ghana card, EC. In other jurisdictions, I'm sure some of those from the foreign countries are here, they have a data system, a database, one data system that has every information of everybody from the child born today until the last old man standing. We don't have such data. And we must admit that we are doing our best to give each other a perfect data. And that has challenges. We cannot say that we will not have challenges in anything we do. That is not entirely true. So in as much as we want a perfect data, we should be thinking about the APC national data system that we have been proposing all this while. That system captures every information of everyone. And when you turn 18, you don't need the EC to tell you, come and register. A letter will be sent to you to go to the EC's office to register your name automatically. When you turn 18, whether you are a Ghanaian or a foreigner who comes from Ghana or another country, you cannot register if you're a foreigner. But what do we do here? Parties here bring in foreigners to come and register. Parties here bring in minors to come and register. And you expect 100% perfection of a voter register. How is that going to be possible? We are the cause of where we are today, and we must all admit we cannot be feeding the voter register and expect it to be credible the way we want it. So if the EC is giving us something and the MDC is asking a forensic audit into the voter register, there's no problem asking for a forensic audit. But the problem here is that we are only holding a provisional voter register. And that allows for correction, and that allows for updates, and that allows us to make suggestions like we are doing now until we get to the final register. It is when we have the final register, then we have problems with it. Of course, we will all agree that yes, we will not go to the election until these problems are resolved. Whether it's coming from the NDC, it's coming from the MPP, it's coming from the APC or any other party. Because we are all part of this game called elections. And we must admit that listening to them today, I'm convinced that they are doing their best. And I'm also convinced that the NDC is convinced that listening to them today, there have been new changes and new development from where it was until today. So I need all of us to know this, that I also want to appeal to the EC. In terms of Pusuga, the casual workers we take to help us in every process in electoral commission activities is also another problem. Don't forget, most of these casual workers are either NDC, MPP, APC, or any other thing. So when we find a problem like this in Pusuga, like Madam Chairperson, it's a human society. If I'm an APC member and I think that a member come and I want to favor, I will favor him. Whether I'm an EC member or not, I will do it. But the problem here is that, look at the problem now. We have transfer of vote, 332,000. What is that for? What it means is that some political party were making transfer from where they have strongholds and where they think they have weak or less stronghold and they can win, and will transfer the huge numbers from that place to favor themselves. Are we listening very well? So, this issue that we are facing today is not just an issue of the EC. It's all of us. We have contributed to this. That's the fact of the matter. We have all contributed to where we are. We want a credible voter register, but we feed it with wrong information.
Now we are going to hear from the Electoral Commission chairperson, because so far, apart from Dr. Fourier's initial presentation, we haven't heard fully from the EC. So having heard the NDC, having heard the MPP, having heard other parties, the chairperson of the commission, Mrs. Jean Mensah, took her turn and for 7 minutes tried to address some of the unaddressed issues and also assure the parties and the public that this election was going to be clean, fair, and credible. So this is Madame Jean Mensah speaking at this program.
In the conduct of our affairs, we may make mistakes, and we have made some errors which do not go to the heart and do not affect the credibility of the registration and, for that matter, the election. They are minor errors, and it's not to say that we gloss over it. But the good news is that we have been very responsive. We've come out very quickly. We've issued statements. We've made corrections. And we have moved on. We have not hidden the truth, or we have not remained quiet. We have addressed the issues and informed the public that, yes, some errors have been made. Here are the corrections. And we have provided this in a timely and accurate manner. And so, for us, this is the trust that we speak about. I'd like to also state that we do not have anything to hide. And if you would notice, from our registration, whether it is the balloting we've opened up to the media, I do not believe this was the case prior to 2020. In the case of nominations, we've opened up nominations to the media, and every single political party has had its turn. And they have been given the opportunity to address the citizenry. And we've also provided the citizenry with the opportunity to observe the process. This is what we call trust. And today, we've opened up IPAC to the whole world. And we intend to do so going forward. I think there's nothing that we've hidden. And so this is the best we can do. And we hope that we can improve upon it. But you agree with me that our systems have a lot, they are built and they are robust. And the framers of, the Constitution and our CIs embed processes that engender trust. And so right from registration, 21 days before the start of a registration exercise, the political parties are provided, the EC provides the political parties with all the gazetted centers. This is to enable them to prepare their agents and have them observe the registration exercise. And so from day one, if it's for 21 days, party agents are given the free will to observe the registration exercise. The good news is that We embed a high level of transparency in the sense that party agents are provided with a start-of-day report indicating the number of persons who were registered the day before. And they are also given an end-of-day report. Again, that has built transparency into the process, and that should engender trust. If parties have any issues with the register, they have the collation. If they notice that in their strongholds, the numbers have dwindled, or and that numbers have gone higher in other places, they have the documentation, which is the start of day that the system generates and provides to them. And so the question is, any political party can today, with the start of day and the end of day reports, collate with near precision the number of persons who registered on any given day. And yes, some of them may have been challenged. The good news is that the district registration review committees have party reps on those committees, and therefore they have that information to be able to act and to use it. You come to exhibition, the law embeds transparent processes, robust processes that should engender trust. The register is displayed for the whole world. It's a come one, come all sort of thing. And everybody can go to the registration center and view it. And if you have an issue, you have every right to raise it and have it corrected. And that is the process that is in place, and it works. In addition to that, we have the magistrates, the district registration review officers appointed by the Chief Justice, who sit at every district and hear cases. Persons who are aggrieved, persons who have issues with the register are provided an opportunity to present these cases, and they are heard in a transparent manner, and rulings are given in writing. This, again, is a transparent and robust process that should engender trust. You come also to the balloting. We all know recently when we were balloting, it's open to the general public. The EC does not determine who is number one. Indeed, people have said, oh, do you determine? We said, no. You ballot. And even as to who takes the ballot that will determine the positioning is not done by the EC. There's a process that allows parties to pick, in the order of the party that will pick the ballot first. All these processes are transparent and they are covered by the media. I believe that this should engender trust. You come again to nominations, as I said. It was an open process. There was fairness. Committees were set up, and there are reports that have been provided based on the committee's work. The process is transparent. A few have taken us to court, and we will prove to the citizenry and the people of Ghana that the process is transparent, is fair. The EC has nothing to hide, and it has no intention to stop anybody's presidential ambitions.
So that was Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam Jean Mensah. When we come back, the NDC, following this special IPAC meeting, issued a statement which seemed to want to move on, but not entirely. We'll walk you through the statement of the NDC, and then we'll speak to Dr. Kojo Asante, who's the Director of Policy, Engagement and Advocacy of the CDD, on what he made of all that spectacle and the NDC's latest position. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is a special edition of The Point of View, bringing you highlights of the special IPAC meeting held on the first day of October 2024 to address issues raised about the voter register and also the system managing the register by the NDC. So far, we heard from the Director of Elections, or Director of IT, rather, of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Ferreje, Dr. Edo Buama of the NDC. We've also heard from Peter McMenu and Justin Ponkodia of the MPP, Hassan Erega of the APC, and prior to this short break, we took Mrs. Jean Mensah. So what I'm going to do now is to bring you the latest position. So the NDC, after this after this engagement, held a special functional executive committee meeting. They call it FEC, and they released a statement late Tuesday night. So I'm going to walk you through the statement, make of it what you would, and then I'll bring you an excerpt of a very important interview I had to try and put all of this in context. So here goes the NDC statement. So it was signed by the General Secretary, Fifi Fiavikwete, and essentially was reporting to the public the outcome of the FEC meeting held after this special IPAC meeting. Now, it says NDC position on matters arising from the IPAC relative to the 2024 Provisional Voters Register. Now, it reads, following the special IPAC meeting held today, Tuesday, 1st October, to deliberate on the 2024 Provisional Voters Register, the Functional Executive Committee, FEC of the NDC, deems it fit to restate the following significant admissions by Electoral Commission. So we notice the word admission. They're basically saying, based on everything that has been said, this is what the EC admitted. 1, illegal transfer of voters due to lack of liveliness test technology, as occurred in Pusiga and other constituencies. 2, erroneous addition of previous transfers to the current 2024 register or transfer list, right? Presence of corrupted files in the 2024 Provisional Voters Register, which the Commission claims have been rectified and restored. Deleted voters who the Commission wishes to place on a missing voters register. And finally, a vulnerable ECIT system that is susceptible to data manipulation and infiltration from officials and non-officials of the EC who have access to login credentials. Now, with this background, the Functional Executive Committee of the NDC has deliberated and decided to accept, this is a very key point, they've decided to accept the EC's promise, because we heard both Mrs. Mensah and other people in the EC promise to release to political parties the corrected, updated version of the 2024 Provisional Voters Register for scrutiny within 1 week. So basically by 9th October, this should have happened. 2, FEC further welcomes the decision by the EC to re-exhibit the updated Provisional Voters Register. We, however, recommend that the re-exhibition exercise be conducted online and offline at the exhibition centers. The EC had said they would do this online. The FEC wants this to, or the NDC wants this to be done both online and offline. We see where that leaves the EC. Additionally, the EC demands a multi-stakeholder and inter-party examination of the IT system of the Commission with the aim of addressing the vulnerabilities that the EC itself has admitted to, which vulnerabilities led to several of the anomalies we have raised. Clearly, the vulnerabilities in the IT system of the EC can be exploited by criminals to compromise the integrity of the December 7 elections if not addressed. Signed, Fifi Fiavikwete. So basically, there's a key demand there which the meeting has not resolved, the issue of a multi-stakeholder examination. So the word audit and forensic audit has left the picture. Now the word is in examination of the system. So that's a different type of review. So our reading of this is that the NDC seems fairly satisfied with the assurances given by the EC in relation to the issues they raised originally. On the issue of the audit, now I think they're talking about the security of the system. So this seems to have shifted a bit. So what I did was now, earlier, call Kojo Pumpuni Asante, doctor, who's the director of policy, advocacy and research of the policy and advocacy of the CDD Ghana, to put the whole thing in context for us. I spoke to him on air earlier today. Here are Kojo Asante's views on where this leaves us and the way forward.
I've known a lot of the technical officers at the Electoral Commission, and I know that a lot of them can perform magic, because some of them they've done elections in Sudan and places that, you cannot imagine, and they still manage to pull elections. But you don't, of course, want to be in that situation. They're very experienced. But the point is that you want to have time. You don't want to rush. So normally the register is certified late, but the point, we need to have a sense of the register so that we can, determine polling stations for the elections. That is very important for the EC, recruitment. We need it for, to print the register for each polling station we need to print ballots for 80 million people, and depending on how these balloting litigation goes and how quickly that goes, to determine, when we are going to print those ballot papers, because we've been doing a maximum of 12 or so in the past. If already it's beyond 12, if the course determine otherwise, it might be longer, and that'll be the first time we'll be doing, anything longer than that. That presents its own challenge. So if you start putting all these things that the Electoral Commission has to be, and these are serious logistical, challenges that, the Electoral Commission has to put its mind to. So the quicker you kind of resolve and give confidence to these systems, the better for everybody, so that the other things, you can focus on and prepare logistically for the elections, because those are also very important to give confidence, and transparency to the process. So in terms of time, 2 months to the election, we really are right up against it. And we have to, in October, a lot of the things we are talking about, re-exhibition, getting people to, fill the templates and give information about the anomalies so that the IT they can clean the system, and all of those things are all fine. They have to do training for all the temporary staff. That's a massive one, and the training is important because, as we have understood from the 2020, some of the issues that we experienced through the collating process and all of that, you need a lot of time to take people through systems and all of those things. So there's still a lot to do. I mean, that's the point.
So that was Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante of the CDD speaking to me earlier this morning on the special IPAC meeting held to address issues raised by the NDC. So for those of you who missed it or who didn't get the full context of that over 2.5 hour spectacle, we hope we've condensed it to make it make sense, starting from the EC's Director of IT to the NDCs of Omani Boama to Mr. Peter McMenu and Justin Frimpong Kodi of the MPP. Hassan Yarega's very wise words, the EC chairperson's response, and of course, Dr. Kojo Asante's overview of the whole thing. Thanks for joining us on this special edition of The Point of View. My name is Bernard Avle. Stay with Channel 1 Television. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.